Hello everyone. Today I am coming to you from actually a pre-recorded video. I am currently visiting our office in Warsaw, Poland. And so normally when I do this stream, it is of course evening my time, but it would be in the middle of night here. So doing a bit of a pre-recorded video today to show you, I'm going to give you a tour of our office here. So currently I'm at our office in Warsaw. And weather is beautiful, and just going to show you around a little bit. You get to meet some of the people who work here. If you were watching our content during B&D-Con, you may already have met some of these wonderful people that are part of our team. But I just want to, to give you a tour and give you a chance to just see what our office here is like. And I will probably do a similar tour next week when I will be visiting our office in Wrocław. All right, so first of all, here I am in what is basically this is just our lunchroom here. We have a nice balcony where we can enjoy the beautiful weather. And this is also where we keep some of the supplies on hand. For example, we have some sleeves there. We often use a lot of sleeves for different prototypes and games that we are creating. So, but now let me take you over here. We're gonna start over here in this room, which is where we have our administrative and development team. First of all, we have a wonderful young fellow here.
Hello.
Ajay, how are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Do you want to tell them just briefly what you do and what your average day looks like?
Well, I am known as head of development, which means that I am the person in charge of making our games from a prototype and taking them all the way to gameplay finished. So this is what I do. I have wonderful people working with me on this, people who are knowledgeable and who can find solutions to any sort of problems we encounter while working on a game. But basically what I and those people do together is sit down over a game that is a prototype and make it the fantastic game that reaches your table. Apart from that, I do a little bit of Kickstarter communication and a few other odds and ends. But mostly what I do is work on our games.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to do some development work here last week. Mm-hmm. We sat down and like you said, you sit down at a prototype, you play it, you see what works, and then we take the things that don't work so well back and clean it up and make little improvements and adjustments.
This is exactly what we do. Little small new ideas, everything that comes into a game. Sometimes we get to cut something out, sometimes we get to put something in. There's a lot of different kind of things you do when you develop a game that starts as a great idea and ends as an actual game.
Right. Now, I know one thing that a lot of people tend to ask is basically how long does that development process take for a game? So for example, we just recently received some samples for Origins, which is our release that is coming out in August. Now, how long would you say that the development process for a game like this takes?
Well, the development process for a game usually takes at least a few months. Sometimes it may take longer. It depends on the complexity of the game and sometimes on unforeseen difficulties and problems we may encounter as we develop and test the game. But like I said, usually it's a good few months. We have a very robust group of testers that helps us out a lot with our games. We get our games played almost constantly by testers. We get feedback and then we can make further changes. So we have a pretty good system here that can crank out a lot of work on an almost daily basis. Like I said, it often varies from game to game. There is a matter of how heavy a game is and what mechanisms are there. When it comes to Origins, it took us, I believe, about 7 months. The game was great when it came here, but we just wanted to push it that bit further. And for that, what you do, you sit down, you play the game, you adjust little things, then you also give it to testers, and then you adjust again and again until you feel that it is perfect.
Right. Yeah, and this was also one, depending on the game and the designer, because I know this is one that we saw a very early version of. It was not the finished one, but I remember when I was here about 2 years ago, we saw an early version of it. And of course, being able to work closely with the designers and staying in touch with them, that also helps us being part of that development process at an earlier stage as well.
Yes, sir, that is the case. And of course, please remember that development is one of the big steps. There is also all of the great works that goes into illustrating the game and creating the graphic design. So what I was talking about is just the part where we try to make the game better, and then we get to work together with art to see if the interface of the game is exactly what it should be, so that everybody understands the game, how certain elements are laid out. So of course, but that is something somebody else will be able to tell you more about, I guess.
Right. And we're going to look at, even though this is a box that we have here, this is in fact the Brazilian version, because often the different language versions still come through our office. And we're going to take a look at a sneak peek on some of the punch boards and the sample that we've received from the factory. But thank you so much.
Thank
you. You are doing great work, and we look forward to seeing more things coming out of the development team.
My pleasure.
Now we have a delightful young lady who's currently on a call, but we will talk to her in a second. We also have Andre here. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you.
Awesome. Now you do a lot of things. First of all, you are the CEO for our company.
So I've been told.
Right. And that also means that you, of course, are involved in all the operations that are going on. You also have the distinct pleasure of working with our factories in China. Now, do you want to tell us a little bit of how that process?
Okay, fine. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward relationship. It's like working with any other factory, right? At first, we started by meeting each other in China, in Shanghai. So I've been there like 10 times already. We are exchanging 5 to 25 emails a day. You know, back and forth with all the files. We send them what we want, they tell us what they can do, and then it's a ping pong between the two sides. The biggest challenge is to meet the deadlines, because nowadays with this crazy, I mean, not everybody probably knows that, but the situation with the worldwide shipping right now is really dire. The prices for overseas shipments have skyrocketed. Sometimes they're 10 times higher than what they used to be. So this time last year, for example. And because of that, and on top of that, there is also the lack of availability of any sort of containers in China. So there are now logistics combined with production issues which need to be taken care of. But overall, it's a fruitful relationship. I mean, we've been working with the same factory for, I think it's 4 years now. We are super happy with the quality. I mean, of course, there will be mistakes from time to time. That's unavoidable, and everybody's still human, allegedly. So, yeah, I mean...
And I think a lot of that depends also on what you were saying, that especially because whenever we have a print run of a new game, it's often multiple languages, and it's about coordinating and making sure that we get the right files from our partners, making sure that those meet the requirements and the standards of the factory. And then of course we get the samples from there, and making sure that everything is sent out, that the logistics are working, and that we get the boxes with the games from the warehouse put on containers and then sent to different distribution partners across the world.
And localization partners, and the fulfillment centers when we're talking about Kickstarter games and so on.
And of course, you're also part of our development team, and part of that process that we were just talking with Board&Dice about. And again, we had some wonderful development work here early in the week that we will be able to, it will turn into games in 2022 and onward. So thank you, Andre.
Thanks, Rainer.
And we're going to take a quick look here at some of the, I was saying that we just recently received some things from the factory. So typically we do, of course, we always get samples with the printed materials. In this case, we have the Origins board. And now you will see that some of these components here, for example, These particular ones are in Portuguese because they were from the Brazilian copy. But this is a pretty good, gives you an idea of what we get. So we do get a full printed version of the game, and we get to inspect it. We make sure that the colors look okay. We punch out some of the components. We look at how do they fit on the board, for example. Like in this case, these building tiles, they would go here over on the side, and we just make sure that the components fit and match the specifications that we had set for them. It's also, of course, a matter of looking and making sure that the printing looks good, that their colors are fine, that the front and back are good, and also that the punch boards, as you can see, there's always a bit of bleed between the line where it gets punched and the outside of it, but we make sure that where the cut is in the board, that is within the margins. Of course, there are a lot of different components here. You have resources and so forth, other tiles that will be punched out. For example, here we have these are the zodiac tiles, which will go on the board, and same thing, this is something that we make sure that it fits properly and that the text and colors and everything is looking good. And then of course there's also, we always get the rule book as well, even though this is for the Portuguese version, which is one of our localization partners, we still have to look through it and make sure that everything is looking good, that the text and so forth, that there are no problems with it. Same thing with the wooden components and any plastic components. In fact, we received some samples here, even though these are going to be in different colors later, but these are, here on the left, you see the pyramids for Zapotec, which is our November release for the year. And these are the pyramids. When you've seen plays and so forth, we've typically not had the plastic pieces, even though those are the ones that you can see in the rulebook. But this is the latest sample of what they will look like. So we look at the fit, especially because these are 3 pieces that stack on top of each other. We make sure that the fit is good, that the size is good, and just that they feel good to handle, and that this is something that is going to look really good on the game board as well. Just next to that pyramid, we have some components for Tabanusi, which is an October release. These are different buildings that will be placed on the game board. As you can see here on the bottom, the different pieces will fit together. So basically when they're sitting next to each other, they will slot, the different bases will slot in there. And we just make sure that this is something that will fit, that they will fit next to each other. Same thing with the different buildings. These are going to be in player colors, that they fit nicely in the slots that are on those buildings. We also did look at, last week we were looking at the player boards for Origins, and we made sure that, for example, the different bases, so there will be bases here for the population, basic population bases for each player. We made sure that the bases fit nicely in here, also that they fit here at the top in those different slots, that the dice fit in those bases and so forth. So it's a matter of basically punching out the things, making sure that the plastic pieces are the right sizes and that everything fits in there correctly. All right, we are back here with Ola, who was on a call earlier, and we're just going to talk to her for a moment. Now, Ola, you fulfill a very important role, which you can see a hint, or we're not going to stay too long on that, but we have a very important calendar in the background. So tell us a bit of what you do.
Well, I'm a project manager in Board&Dice, which means my task in the company is to be sure that every project will be on time and you will get your games exactly in a moment they should be in your hands. I'm managing weekly plannings. I'm overseeing like every task in the company, or I'm trying to. I'm only human, so it's not always easy. I'm also, I need to be sure that everyone have everything they need for their job. I need to check if there are any obstacles and someone cannot do their task, for example. So yeah, that's my main purpose here. There are obviously some other stuff. I'm also doing knowledge management in the company. I'm creating like company Wikipedia. I'm managing communications in the company, and so on and so on. So it's a lot of stuff.
And I have to say, I mean, you have been with us in the past. You have been one of our very dependable volunteers at conventions. So you're not new to our company in that way, but ever since you started working for us, it's been just over a year now of you working here. Mm-hmm. And it's basically been huge improvements to the process. Like you said, we were talking earlier to Bosch, and he was talking about there are multiple parts that go into making a board game. Everything from seeing the early prototypes, the development process, artwork and stuff. And like you said, you're the one who makes sure that we have a timeline that is both reasonable and that we can stick to it, and if there are any things that come up, that we can make the necessary adjustments to that timeline, so that in the end the hard timelines that we have, which is the print dates, which are actually scheduled many months in advance, that we can stick to those as well.
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
So thank you for the work that you do there, and again we will probably see more from you in the future. A lot of the work that you do is going on behind the scenes, so whenever things come to you on time and whenever things are looking great and we're able to, often on the streams where I am able to show artwork or other things, that's often because Ola has made sure that the rest of us are on task and get things done on time. So thank you for that.
I just want to add one thing.
Yes.
So I just want to say that I'm really blessed because I can see everyone working on a board game. So I can see how our company is working from the idea to the execution, and this is really awesome. And you know, guys, it is great to have a game at the end which you can enjoy, but it's also really cool to see how it was done from the very beginning to the very end, and I'm very thankful for that. That's
right. Well, thank you so much for that. We're going to continue our tour of the office. All right, we are here with Zbyszek, who is a wonderfully talented artist and graphic designer. If you haven't seen it already, if you missed it during B&D Con, you should definitely watch the presentation that he did there. So, Zbyszek, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what your day looks like?
Hey, thank you for those kind words right there. As you said, I'm a graphic designer, and I take care of the looks of our games. What does my day look like? Well, basically, there are a lot of tasks I'm involved in. Some of them are connected to checking the prototypes, and some of them are just designing graphic on computer and software. And we also have some meetings to talk about stuff that are happening in the graphic department. Yeah, so that's...
Yeah. And often we obviously try to make sure that you get to play the games that we're publishing, just so that you get to, especially for the graphic design part, so that you have that in mind as you are thinking about the iconography and the meaning that they have in the game. I was showing people that are watching this the Origins samples that we got from the factory, and I know that you were taking a look at that earlier as well, just to make sure that that they look good, that everything is the correct colors, and that the size is right on the punch boards and so forth.
Yes, that's correct. The samples for the Origins looked really nice. We're very happy with that. I'm also checking here the the correctness of the PDFs we are sending to the factory. So everything looks good here.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we were talking to Bajay, he also said that there are obviously many parts that go into the process of both everything from the early prototypes to then the design and development work, and then of course obviously the graphic design to tie everything together to make sure that we have consistent iconography, that the iconography, that everything is explained properly. Of course, you are also working on the rule books when it comes to the DTP process and making sure that that is both presented in a way that makes the rules clear, but also that they are correct, and of course making corrections as we go through the editing process and so forth.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, so that was a bit of a tour of our office, and you had a chance to meet some of the team members and see a little bit of the work that is going on. Of course, there's a lot of processes, like Bajay was saying. There's always we get to see the early designs, there's the development work, there's the artwork that goes into it. There's a matter of the play testing, both with and without final artwork. And then once everything has arrived, we tie everything together, it gets sent to the factory for final production, and then the logistics process of getting all the games to you and to your table. We look forward to providing some more of these behind the scenes sneak peeks. We like to show you a few things that are going on behind the scenes, and sometimes we have looked at the process of editing rule books, and we've looked at the process of artwork from start to finish, and now you got a tour of our office as well as just a little bit of insight into the day-to-day work that is going on here. Like I said, we will probably be back with you next week with a tour of the Warsaw office. And until then, we tell you goodbye and hope that you have a wonderful week.
Bye.